It's the Funny Comics Fan Club.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Anybody there?
Welcome to...
We're here.
We're here, just about.
Are you there? Stand to attention when we're talking to you out there.
Welcome, then, to the Funny Comics Fan Club. I am Dr. Mark Hibbett.
I'm Dr. John Dredge. Can you spot the deliberate mistake? Dr. Edge, you can call me that.
I got really excited there. I thought, oh, what's he been up to?
Yeah, exactly. I got a beginner's swimming certificate, that's about it.
And what are we looking at, Dr. Edge, this time?
We are looking at Hoot comic, the well-known Hoot comic.
Britain's bubbling new comic, it says.
It's bubbling all over the place. That's what it says here on the front. What a peculiar strapline, if that's what you call it.
Well, apparently, it's called that because the name Hoot is spelled out in pipes for some reason.
Yeah, the logo is pipes. Looks like pipes.
I don't know why.
It's not explained.
It's not explained.
There's no explanation of much of this comic.
There isn't. But the funny thing is, the weird thing is, that it's kept having the title Britain's Bubbling New Comic on it right up until the very last episode.
That's the sort of research you can expect on this podcast.
From Wikipedia, yes.
Because you read them all, didn't you, Mark?
I have not read them all, but you could do, couldn't you? You could read them all.
It is feasible, because there was only 53, I believe. 53 or
53, yes.
So.
It lasted for exactly a year.
Wow, that wasn't very good, was it?
It wasn't very good. But this was the last of the DC Thompson humour comics. This was the last one they...
Wow.
Well, unless they do another one. But for this entire area, this was the last new comic they did. I think they did other things that had reprints in. But as far as new comics go, this is the last one.
Gosh. And so this went out every Saturday when you went to your friendly neighbourhood newsagents. It's number 48, so this is really near the end of the run.
Near the end, yeah.
And it is September 1986, does that say?
That's what it says. And it was 20 pence.
20 new pence.
20 new pence in it. And I like the fact that the 20p is put in the shape of a 20 pence piece.
Yeah, I like that. And I think all of them say it's a hoot.
Oh, he does say it's a hoot.
It's a hoot. So the logo is sort of being tooted, as it were, by the main star of the comic. Now, if you don't know what I mean, which I can well understand, maybe we'll put this page on the socials so you can read along with us and see what the hell we're talking about. Because a lot of the time, we don't know either. But yeah, Hoot comic, Britain's bubbling new comic. I mean, there's nothing bubbling about it.
Well.
Bubbling new comic. Is that what's meant to make it stand out from all the other ones?
Well, I think I'm getting an idea. But what was your impression of this comic then, John? What did you think to it?
Don't think of it. The more I looked at it, the more I liked it, actually.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, when I first saw it, I thought, blimey, what is this, 16 pages or something? Very thin gruel.
20 pages, but yeah. It's
20 pages,
that's less, because the other comics we look at are 32 pages, so there's not a lot to it.
Hardly anything. And
it doesn't start off well, because it's got Cuddles on the cover. We loathed Cuddles the last time we saw him.
Did we? Did we see him in Nutty Comic?
It was in Nutty Comic, yeah. So Cuddles started in... I think what happened was Cuddles started in Nutty Comic, and then he appeared in Hoot. And then when Hoot merged with Dandy a few weeks after this, Cuddles then teamed up with Dimples, another annoying baby character.
Sounds awful already.
I think it was awful to form Cuddles and Dimples.
God.
Or Dimples and Cuddles, I'm not sure which.
Yeah.
And went on from there. So I don't know why they put him on the cover. But yeah, I found, the more I got into this, the more I thought, hang on, I really like this comic.
Yeah, because at the start you just think, I've never heard of it. Who's Cuddles? Why is he on the front? He's not exactly a big star of comic strips, is he? He's just another of these silly, naughty baby characters you get. He hasn't got the character of Babyface Finlayson or Baby Burpo in Cheeky Weekly or anything.
Sweeney Toddler would be the other one, wouldn't he?
He definitely hasn't got the characteristics of somebody like that.
No.
So he's just a sort of fairly... But what's interesting about Cuddles is it's quite violent.
Yes.
It's quite Tom and Jerry-like.
It is.
Which you might not get now. It starts off... there's a big picture of Cuddles' dad running out of the bathroom with a piranha fish biting his big toe because Cuddles has put this in the bath. I don't think you'd get that in comics nowadays. I have a feeling you probably wouldn't. So it's quite a action-packed sort of strip, you could say. And then it's in colour on the front and on the back. It continues on the back. And you've got some nice little details once you start to look at it. Like the bath, for example, has a shark's fin coming out of it and a periscope with an eye looking out. So there are some nice little details. But on the whole, I found Cuddles rather underwhelming, as I had done before.
It's an underwhelming start, but then when you get into it...
Let's have a look inside. Can we just look at this second page, actually? I wasn't going to originally, but the more I found out about this, the more I found it interesting. So the second page is called The Hoot Squad. It was drawn by someone called Ken somebody. Hold on.
Ken Harrison.
Is it? Okay. So when I first saw this, I thought, yeah, it's all right. There's a big panel with lots of jokes going on, lots of detail, kids running around in a sweet factory. It starts with two smaller drawings that seem irrelevant to me, but they're sort of setting up the fact that they're all going to a sweet shop, or a sweet factory. I quite like all, some of the detail on the page. Like there's all these kids running around doing strange things. Like one of them's swimming around in a vat of pop, and another one's turned on the licorice machine, and there's all this licorice coming out and strangling half the people working there. When you actually start to look at what this page is, it's interesting and it's colourful. But if we can put this on the socials, that'd be good, because the first two little panels somehow undermine the strip. Because there's a magazine called Infinity Magazine, and strangely enough, it is also covering, of all things, Hoot comic in it. So this is the most attention Hoot comic has ever had.
This is Hoot's moment. It's his perfect moment.
I mean, we're in the zeitgeist now.
We always are.
We'll be out of it again in a minute. But if you look at the feature in Infinity Magazine, you've got some of these Hoot Squad panels that have been reprinted. And to me, if you've just got one panel over a whole page, it looks brilliant.
Yeah. Well, this is very much a traditional thing in comics, going back a long, long time, because the first ever comic, citation required, may have debate about that, The Yellow Kid in the 1890s, was this. It was a picture of all sorts of things going on in a single massive panel.
Who was the Yellow Kid?
The Yellow Kid was a newspaper cartoon.
And what was the Yellow Kid?
The Yellow Kid was a kid who wore a yellow smock. And weirdly, for some reason, whatever the kid was saying would appear in writing on his smock. It's a whole thing. Professor Roger Sabin has written whole books about it. It's very interesting. It's where a lot of this stuff comes from. But then the early Bash Street kids would be the same thing. You'd have one picture with all this different stuff going on. So it's a long tradition of doing it. What I thought was really interesting about it was Ken Harrison was, at the time this came out, he was ghosting Dudley Watkins on the Bruins and All Woolly in the Sunday Post in Scotland. So the Sunday Post Scotland published those comics, which have been going for donkey's years, since the 30s, drawn by Dudley Watkins, who invented loads of characters in the Beano. And this looks like Dudley Watkins, so it's like, I had to go and look at this up, because I thought, well, surely this is a reprint of a really, really old one panel, but it's not. It's new.
Because look at, there's a guy who looks like he's in charge of the sweet factory, wearing a suit that could not be any more old-fashioned.
It's a three-piece brown suit, isn't it?
It is not a 1986 suit. That looks like a 1926 suit.
Yeah.
Very old-fashioned looking.
And all the kids are wearing shorts, aren't they? Which in 1986, no kids were wearing shorts.
But do you see what I mean about the fact that these little panels that you don't need at the start of this sort of undermine the impact of a single panel over the whole page? Like if you look at some of the other Hoot squads, they look like they could be really good posters or really colourful. They just hit me in a way that the one that we're looking at doesn't so much.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I do. But I thought it was interesting that it looks so old-fashioned, because I think a lot of the stuff in this does, like, that's why I wanted the next page along. It's called Want a Job Bob. What I thought were two things that are interesting about this. They're clearly, the family in Want a Job Bob are clearly related to the Whizzes of Beano Town, because they have exactly the same haircut as Billy Whizz. These two, like, stalks of hair that come out the top. I've never seen that anywhere else in comics, but Want a Job Bob and his dad both have that haircut. But also, the language in this is really, really different from what I'd expect from DC Thomson comics, because it reads like, yeah, this is how kids speak in 1986. So even the fact that the kid goes, Dad, and it's like spelled out, it's like, yeah, that's how kids speak, but it's not how I was expecting kids to speak in DC Thomson comics. And I think after having gone some Cuddles and the Hoot Squad, I got to this, and you think, there's something different going on. I think in a way, get ready for this. This is my big thesis of this entire comic.
Uh-oh.
Watch out, everybody, because
Look
here
out.
it comes. It feels to me like, this is DC Thompson finally going, hang on, maybe we should make comics that apply to kids now in the late 20th century, not in the 1950s. And it feels like this is a forerunner of the Beano that we have now, which is very much to do with modern kids, and it's very much of the now. It's kind of a forerunner to that, and it feels like what Plug and maybe even Nutty, what those comics were sort of trying to do and trying to update themselves. I think Hoot succeeds.
Wow.
And Hoot does, and I think it's great. I mean, he uses words like plonker. He calls his dad pie face and things like that. It's like, this is a modern kid. This
Where
feels
does it say plonker?
Where's it gone?
No, it doesn't say that.
Maybe it doesn't say. Does he not say this?
No, he calls him pie face.
He calls him pie. Where does he say plonker then?
No, I don't think it says.
Oh
that.
no, plonker is on the next story, Polar Bear, which I don't really want to go into. But in this story, he's called somebody a plonker, definitely.
Does he?
Yeah. There we go. So the dad says, "Snort, you great hard-boiled Burke."
Ooh,
He
that's
says,
a bit strong.
That is a bit. And then at the end, we need to go into the storyline. But a small child says, "You plonker, Dad doesn't like ice baths like you polar bears."
I totally missed that.
Plonkers and Burks going on. Yeah, so it's more. So and
That is a bit stronger than the older style.
cripes it is.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I'm going to say this feels like now. About 40 years ago.
It feels like 1986.
It does feel like 1980. It feels like 19... Because I think we said, didn't we, when we did Crazy and Cheeky, those felt now, as far as it was the mid-70s. I think this feels a lot more like, well, at least the mid-70s, the early 80s. It does feel like something's changed here at DC Thompson.
It's quite a good character. Is he meant to come from Newcastle or something? Because he's always gone on about, oh, how divin. Is that a Newcastle expression?
I think you're missing the hilarious joke here, John.
Am I?
So, Dad says, "This is your new bed, Bob." And Bob says, "Oh, how divan." As in, how divine.
Oh, I thought it was some sort of Newcastle slang.
Why, divin, give me that nonsense.
Yeah, I was thinking of Viz.
Right.
But clearly I've been looking into this too much, I think. I've been looking at this far too deeply.
What is the etymological root of divan? That's...
But yeah, I mean, not a bad page.
I think this is where I'm warming to it at this point. This one.
Yeah. So let us move through the magazine. Let's just briefly mention Sam's Secret Diary. The only reason I want to mention it is because here's another strip where somebody bangs their finger with a hammer.
Oh,
We've
right,
only
okay.
just had someone and doing DIY again. This is the second DIY strip in 2 pages.
Again, that's the 80s. I mean, I was alive and breathing there, and my parents were always trying to DIY
Well,
things.
that's true. But nothing of great import there. Now we come to a strip that I found really interesting called L-Plated Ella. This is by Robert Nixon, and what's interesting about it is, okay, so the main character is called Ella, this little girl who's learning things and is generally fairly sort of accident prone. But the way the page is formatted is interesting because the story takes place in a red letter L, and then in the space there's a big one-panel joke.
And can I just say, it took me ages to work that out. Ages, and then eventually went, oh, it's an L.
It's an L,
It's
you're
an L.
right.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was quite inventive, and there's some good little jokes in here. Like there's a bit where Ella, this is like she's on a golf course here, and she's like carrying this huge golf bag, and she says, "Phew, learning to play golf is heavy going." And then someone says, "Carry your clubs in this, Ella," pointing to a small car. So she puts them in the car and carries that as well. And she says, "This is even heavier now." That's a good joke.
Yeah, it was a good joke. Yeah, I really liked it.
And it's by someone called Robert Nixon. The last strip of these, in the last Hoot, has a picture of Ella drawing Robert Nixon. I thought that was really sweet. So yeah, I thought this was a nice little character and interestingly done.
Yeah, it's really cute, isn't it? And again, she looks like a modern kid. It's all, yeah.
It's pretty modern. It is.
Yeah. Perhaps unlike the next thing we look at when we go
This
to page.
is weird.
This section is that we're going to look at now. I think it's officially called Comic Cuts. So it's 2 pages of sort of newspaper strips, isn't it? It's like so they've all got 4 panels. So it's like a 4-panel newspaper gag strip, but they're all based on old characters from the Beano and the Daniel. So, for instance, the first one is called JR. So we looked at JR months ago when we looked at Nutty Comic,
Yeah.
and it's a 4-panel gag strip of him.
But they're all drawn by the same guy, I believe.
Yeah, they're all drawn by George Martin.
Yeah. So they look a bit like these old characters, but not completely like them.
No, so JR, I think he did draw JR when we looked at it, but then Colonel Blink, and I haven't thought of Colonel Blink for about 40 years.
I mean, where did he come from? We haven't looked at him yet.
No, Colonel Blink was in...
Ironically.
Where am I? I have got this right. The Beezer. We haven't done the Beezer yet.
We haven't done the Beezer yet.
Yeah, so Colonel Blink was in the Beezer. I think, so Desperate Dan... Oh God, they've even got Big Ego from the.
They brought him back. Is that the Beano? Yeah.
Yeah, he was on the first character in the Beano.
Why have they brought these characters back?
I don't know, but I think it kind of works.
I mean, it's interesting. It gives you a bit more interest. You think, oh right, these famous characters are now here in the same comic.
Yeah, and they're doing it as a 4-panel gag strip, and it's like, in the nicest possible way. And a lot of these, there are more jokes. There's more jokes in this 4-panel Desperate Dan strip than there was in the Desperate Dan strip we looked at when we did the Dandy.
Yeah.
And it's like, and he basically goes, here's a setup, here's the joke, the end. You think, well,
that was quite cool. Yeah.
So I think I really like them. It feels like, just to draw back the curtain, listeners, on what goes on around this podcast. Before this began, we were talking about Last of the Summer Wine, because that's the kind of...
That's the sort of modern, stylish gentleman we are.
That's right. But this feels a bit like that, because this is a retirement home for all these old characters.
This is their last stand.
Yeah. Or maybe, I mean, probably not, but it could be that this is DC Thomas going, well, we kind of need to protect the copyright on these characters, so obviously, if a movie comes out based on Big Ego, we've got to stake our claim and make sure we're still using the characters to maintain the trademark.
I must just point out there, it hasn't.
Yet.
Wait till Marvel get their hands on it. Big Ego, the movie.
I want to say, DC Thompson, call us. We've got a great picture. We've got a great
idea. Robert Downey Jr. as an ostrich. He'll do that. He'll do anything.
He likes complicated characters. What can be more complicated than an ostrich that is sometimes hungry?
Marvel, don't stick your head in the sand. Get in touch. I've been reading these comics far too much, haven't I? It's affected my brain. in a good way.
Let's say that.
In a very good way.
Let's convince ourselves that. But I thought it was really interesting. I thought these carried on when this merged into Dandy. The Dandy took it up as well, so I thought it was really interesting, that.
Yeah, and some of these are new characters. I mean, Flip and Flop, I think, is a new strip.
Flip and Flop is a new one, yeah.
And then at the top of the page, you've got Desperate Dan. In the middle, you've got a totally new thing. Yeah. So it's sort of inventive, a creative use of these older characters, and a new one here and there.
I really liked it.
What I liked about it was thematically, it looks right because they're all drawn by the same guy. So it sort of looks almost better, I think, than if separate artists had drawn it. Yeah. Just in terms of the styling of that page, to me, it looks good.
Yeah, and this is carried on, of course, hasn't it? Because if you look at the modern Beano, the Beano today does this with lots of. Oh yeah, I've not thought about that before. I've just said it, but the Beano still does it. So obviously there must be something in it. Even if you just go, well, I've only got one joke, we can just do a quick gag strip of it, and there you go. And
I like it. Yeah. I like it.
And it keeps the characters in circulation as well, doesn't it? So like now. If you want to remind today's modern 21st century kids of Big Ego before the film comes out, you can just do it as a gag strip.
There you go. Yeah. So well done, Hoot comic.
Girls!
If you like a good read, then Tammy is the magazine for you.
Every week it's packed with exciting stories, including animal, ballet and sport adventures, not all at the same time.
Plus great serials with characters like gymnast Bella Barlow and Pam with her friends at Pond Hill School, not Grange Hill School, Pond Hill School. There is a difference.
The famous Pam. So for the best stories, plus lots of interesting features, make sure you get Tammy!
On sale now, 16p. This week, 25 free ET sweatshirts. He's doing well out of them, isn't he?
He's doing well, isn't he? Yeah.
He's rolling in it in 1981. Right then. Now we come to the centre spread, I believe the term is.
I believe it is. Dog's Body.
Full colour.
It is full colour and drawn by John Gearing, who we like.
You've got to give him credit. He's gone for the full colour Anything else good we can say about it?
Well, I just just thought this was deranged, this story.
This is like another of your favourites, Puss in Boots. Or
It's exactly like Puss in Boots.
Doesn't make any logical sense.
There is no logic, and that's how I enjoy. Well, I mean, it starts with the description. So to help us understand it,
let's try and understand what
here's
the artist is going for.
I think this will sort you out. If I just read this out,
let's try and understand Dog's Body. Let's try and understand.
Sid Kettle, great name, has been bitten by an experimental mechanical dog and caught something nasty. Namely, he turns into a mongrel known as Hairy Rusty Kettle. Read on and find out how Sid becomes Dog's Body.
Let's just go over that again. Right?
Yeah.
Let's just... Yeah. Right, Sid Kettle. His name is Sid Kettle.
Excellent name for a person.
I'm not sure if it's a good name. But anyway, right, he has been bitten by an experimental mechanical dog.
Yes.
Doesn't happen very often, but...
Well, that's why it's experimental, isn't it?
And he has caught something nasty.
Just to correct you, he's caught something nasty. It says
something.
I think maybe that will help.
I must apologise. Yes, I didn't see that. Something nasty. Namely, he turns into a mongrel known as Hairy Rusty Kettle.
Yes.
There's no actual meaning behind that, as far as I can see.
Well, so I think this is like the greatest superhero origin story we've ever had. We had the leopard from Lime Street, who, if you'll recall, was bitten by a radioactive leopard.
So this is a kid that's bitten by a radioactive dog?
No, that would be silly. It's not a radioactive, don't be ridiculous, not a radioactive dog, an experimental mechanical dog who plays no part in the story whatsoever.
No, there's no mention of this experimental dog that's bitten him. An experimental dog!
And that's probably why we don't see these mechanical dogs around on the streets, because if they bite you, you gain the ability to turn into a dog.
So this is a sort of parody of things like The Incredible Hulk again, and Spider-Man again.
Except that it is in no way that, is it though? It's like he
was bitten by, in your words, experimental mechanical dog.
Not my words. The words of It's a Hoot, Britain's bubbling new comic
that everybody's forgotten about. But
until now,
it's back. And
it's here.
We realise it's back. Now I suppose it's nothing like the Hulk, apart from the fact that he turns into something else. And here he turns into a dog
called Hairy Rusty Kettle.
There's no reason for any of those words.
That's not always ever mentioned again during the whole rest of the story.
There's no meaning behind it. There's no meaning in front of it. And the kid in question, Sid the kid, as I like to call him.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
He looks exactly like Eric from Banana Man to me.
Yes, he does. Yes,
exactly like. I know it's the same artist, but I'm not sure what to make.
And
of
you
this.
were happy with that, weren't you? Because he could eat a banana and turn into a superhero.
There you go. He's done something. He's turning into something else.
Perfectly sensible.
Similar to here, in no way at all.
What happens in it is that a talking cat throws a brick through the window.
A talking cat throws a brick through the window.
Yeah. Challenges into a fight.
I think I've got it so far. Challenges into a fight.
And he turns into a dog, yes.
Turns into a dog.
And then they say, we're going to meet for a duel at dawn, but then they go and meet for a duel at somebody called Don, both wearing suits and hats.
Yeah, because they're going to have a duel. Dog and cat going to have a duel.
Yeah, that's right, yes. So he says, and Don says, right lads, pistols at 10 paces. And I says, no, one of us will get shot. So what they do instead is they put animals down each other's trousers.
Yeah, I lost the sense of it at that point.
At that point. You were fine up till then.
I was fine with him turning into a dog and being called Hairy Rusty Kettle.
And usually I love the fact that when he says the cat challenges the cat challenges Hairy Rusty Kettle, the dog, to a duel, and he says, I accept your kind invitation to mollocate you.
Did you like that?
I like that. We did have this same problem, didn't we? Puss in Boots. I loved it, and you...
Yeah, I didn't like Puss. Is that what it was called? Puss in Boots?
Puss in Boots, yes.
It had a similar complete lack of logic.
It's your constant craving for grim, naturalistic realism in these comics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like that blooming film they made of the character in the Beano. What was it?
Oh, it was Calamity James. Yeah, you would have loved that film.
I'm more on that side of things.
Harsh, dark reality.
That's what I'm
into.
That's what
you
not
like.
Hairy Rusty Kettles.
I like Hairy Rusty Kettles.
Well, you would. That's all I can say about
And then
that.
the whole thing ends with so one of them gets a ferret down the trousers, one of them gets a woodpecker down the trousers, and then a farmer turns up and says, "Hoi, you Pero City types, beyond my land," and he gets his sister battling Bertha to hit them.
He does, and that's the end of that. he wasn't the breakout star, was he?
I liked it.
Dog's Body.
Dog's Body. I think once we've got the Hoot cinematic universe going with Big Ego,
You
Dog's
think this
Body
could be
is
the next one?
This is it. Yeah.
This is the next
one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. It looks great because I really like the artist, and but in terms of following the story, I think I can safely say I didn't quite connect with it.
So then, in that case, moving on to this is your final selection.
My final selection for Hoot comic this
Piggles.
week was Piggles. So
let me just get this straight before we go any further. So what you didn't like about Dog's Body was that it didn't seem to make any sense. So what happens in Piggles, John? What goes on there?
Well, for a start, let me set the scene.
Okay.
And what a scene to set. Piggles. Right, I had to look at this a few times before I started understanding it. It says on the first panel of the page, "Who said pigs can't fly?" And then I suddenly thought, oh yeah, it's a pig that can fly, because Piggles is this World War One fighter pilot, but it's a pig.
It's Piggles.
It's Piggles as a pig.
As a pig.
And I actually think the more I thought about this, which no one has ever done, the more I thought about this, the better I thought the idea was. A pig that flies. Great. That's a great idea. And so the artist has put this piggy character in World War One. This is the only strip, I think, that doesn't take place in the sort of present day. It doesn't take place in 1986. It takes place during the First World War. I don't know, I just liked that concept. I'm a big fan of silly concepts. And just the idea of a flying pig in World War One, it was funny to me.
I thought it was, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I thought it's a really funny. It's drawn by Barry Appleby, who I think he may have recently retired, but he's working until very recently.
Really?
And there's loads going on, and he's got one of my favourite things. No class war, which is he's one of my absolute favourite.
It's just a German fighter pilot.
He's got a comedy German accent.
Yeah.
I think I am getting mine on back. He says, "Yes, please." I'm here for that.
And then this bomb falls into the enemy fighter plane, and there's a big explosion. And what I like about that panel is you can see the fighter pilot's teeth flying up in the air, and his helmet, and all sorts of strange things.
And he says, "Der Wurf, ja, I have been kaputted."
Yeah, and it was just a sweet idea. You know, I'm just glad it exists. I liked it.
I really liked it. I think it's really good. And then we're kind of nearly at the end of the comic.
Nearly at the end of the comic.
It's a really short comic, but there was something missing from this comic that you wanted to speak of, I believe.
Yeah, there's no interaction with the readers. There's no editor's notes. There's no fan club. No letters page. No readers page. At this point, there's no competitions or anything. I presume they knew that they were about to wind it up.
Oh, maybe they did. Yeah.
But there's no readers' letters, nothing.
Yeah.
Nobody's written in to say, "Hello, Hoot, we really enjoyed Piggles." Nothing at all. No T-shirts to be won. What's going on here?
No vests, no sporting caps for goons, nothing.
Very little effort has been made, it seems.
That's the only time that's ever happened, because every other comic we've looked at
has had something.
Has had something, hasn't it?
Send something in. Even if nobody ever did.
Because it was the topper, wasn't it? There was basically begging anything.
There's no Cuddles page, writing today and get a free rusk. You haven't got anything, have you? So it lacks...
It lacks that, yeah.
Some form of interaction with the readers there. And I was surprised by that.
You make an excellent point, yeah.
But what else is in here? Oh, yeah. The worst strip I've ever seen comes next.
What?
This is terrible.
Snacking, I thought this was great. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, explain it to me then.
So
you've tried and failed to explain Dog's Body. Have a go at this one.
I can't explain. So this is Snackula, the Prince
you like
of
stuff
Guzzler.
that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't really make any sense.
You probably
at all.
like contemporary art. You probably like funny jazz music. It doesn't make... What is this all about?
It can't all be dark and grim and gritty realism
Well, this
like
is
what
meant to
you
be
like.
dark.
You
This
like
is-
documentaries. That's what you love.
This is meant to be dark and grim.
This is Maybe, yes. So this is Snackula, the Prince of
Snackula,
Guzzling.
the Prince of Guzzling.
I think
What does that mean?
what you're proposing is when we do the adaptation of this, the third in our franchise of the Hoot cinematic universe,
Yeah,
this would be a
yeah.
dark. This would be like the Batman.
This is very much the Batman of the whole enterprise.
So he's called Snackula, and I think he's some kind of a vampire or something. Maybe he just likes eating things, doesn't he? He likes eating things.
It seems to be a vampire that likes eating things, but he doesn't look anything like a vampire.
Nothing like a vampire.
The only reason we might know he's a vampire is because it says Snackula and therefore Dracula.
And he lives in a Dracula castle because the top of the page has like a normal terrace street with a castle in the middle of it.
But there's no vampire bats hanging around.
No.
There's no Frankenstein's monsters in the frame. All it is some kid who likes eating and he lives in a blooming Dracula-style castle in a street.
I think there must have been a setup somewhere along the line that tells us what's going on here. I didn't get it, but
Was there? But was there?
I see what you're saying. You're saying, does there need to be? It's so clear what it actually is. All the houses in Albert Street look much the same, it says. Except for number 5, it's striking. It's eye-catching. It's, well, different. And it's weird. Very weird. But it's not half as weird as the folk who live in it. And we're not going to tell you why.
I just thought, where you need some sort of setup. I mean, okay, I know this is issue 48 or whatever it was.
Yeah, you've had 47 issues now. When it's coming in late.
But, if I was buying this and thinking, okay, let's have a look at these fun new characters, Snackula would not be on the top. Snackula would be very much at the bottom of my list.
And you'd be going like, yes, I'm going to look for fun new characters. I'm going to return to my normal periodical, the Financial Times. What's Japes as the Governor of the Bank of England been up to this week?
Number 1, you'd have Piggles, right? Number 2, you'd have blooming L-plated Ella. Don't like it's Snackula.
That's it. But John, you can't even do that because there isn't a coupon. There's no coupon for you to fill.
There's nothing. You can't subscribe to this anymore. This has had it by this point.
I'm going to say if that's the way we're going, I would say number 1 is the comic cuts because I love that. I thought that was really, really good. Number 2 is Dog's Body, just to annoy you.
Dog's Body, get out of here
With
your flaming hairy kettles.
And I think I must maintain my dislike of Cuddles because I just
yeah, well, I can see that.
But overall, I just thought this was great. I just really enjoyed it.
There was a lot in it for like the 20 pages.
Yeah.
There was a lot to look at. Apart from the fact that Cuddles was the star, that could have been the problem with it.
Maybe,
but then again, he was like on the front of the Dandy or something for a bit. And then nobody liked him on the front of the Dandy.
And it's like maybe in a lot of these comics, when they got back the little vouchers that the kids sent in saying, this is what I liked, we know for a fact they listened to them. They read those and they used them. And now, as we know, the Beano these days does even more than that to find out what's going on. So they would say, okay, this character is working.
Yeah,
how would they know? How do they know what's working in here?
They haven't given the readers of this a chance to express their dislike of Cuddles.
And their love of Dog's Body and Snackula.
I don't think so.
I think so. That's what
but yeah. So there were some glaring errors in this thing. It only lasted a year. But there's some really good things about it as well. It's really inventive, some of it. And
it is.
It's a shame that it was only 53 issues, but it's had its day.
Until now.
Until now.
It's back. It's in magazines. We're talking about it. The movies are coming out.
Everybody's talking about Hoot comic. You can't turn on the television.
You can't turn
without
on the television.
people, having a discussion of Piggles.
Yeah, I think so. I just thought it was great.
I liked it.
I think apart from the Beano, it's my favourite DC Thompson one that we've looked at so far.
Wow, that is high praise indeed.
So it's much to my great surprise. I didn't think we were going to like
I didn't think I was going to like that very much.
But that was great.
Yeah, we enjoyed it.
Great. Lovely. All right, well, all that remains then is to give you next episode's comic. And next time we're going to be looking at Wow.
Great.
So what we've done here is we looked at the last of the DC Thompson comics. Next time, it's the last of the IPC comics.
Good heavens. Well, I look forward to reading this. Wow comic. Gee. Looks nice and colourful already.
It does.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, John. And in the meantime, we'll see you all at the premiere of Big Ego the movie.
Well, with Piggles as the supporting feature. And until next time, it's good night from me.
And it's good night for me also.
Good night.